on, Ranger fans? Welcome to Off the Grid, the All Power Rangers podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Bartley, and today we're going to talk about a little bit of toy news, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 25th Anniversary comic book, and Go-Go Power Rangers number 11. But before we get to that, how are you all doing? I'm doing great. I just finished Power Rangers in Space. Rewatched it since my childhood, and I freaking loved it. I still have to do an in-depth spoilers review of Turbo, and I'm gonna do an in-depth spoilers review of In Space as well. But there's been so many comics coming out frequently, which wasn't the case before, so I've been having to put those reviews off because the comics are so current. But I'm definitely going to get back to my reviewing of the shows. But I will say I absolutely love Power Rangers in Space. One of the best seasons of Power Rangers I've ever seen. The 2-episode finale of that season is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And in the context of being a Power Rangers show in the 90s, low budget, obviously I'm not comparing it to like Game of Thrones or something like that. No, I'm just saying, like, in the context of what Power Rangers is for the time, for the budget, those episodes are incredible. And I will go into depth onto why in my reviews in the future. But let's get to today's episode. So, not so much Ranger news in our Ranger news segment today, just a couple toy things. So, Power Morphicon is next month. I believe it's July 17th through the 19th, I think. Yeah. I'm going to be there on Sunday the 19th, and I have pre-ordered my Lord Draken figure, Legacy figure, for $50. But they also announced that you're going to be able to get his throne too. That's exciting news. Except it's so damn expensive. That throne is $60. Look, I'm not saying I can't afford it or nothing like that, but it's just the principle. I already paid $50 for the figure, just the figure. Paying $60 more for the throne? I mean, it looks really cool, and I would love to have that throne. I guess I would have to buy two, because then I would have to have him sit on one, because in the package, the throne is kind of useless, excuse me. But, yeah. So that was good, cool news, but it's like, at the same time, I'm sure there's tons of people who are going to buy it. I don't know if I'm going to buy it. Maybe if they have some available there and I just get an impulse to buy it, I'll get it. But I'm not pre-ordering it. $60. I'd rather get another Lord Draken figure, which I'm thinking about doing anyway, than get the throne. But then I would have to probably do that if I got the throne anyway, because I need one to sit on the throne, one to stay in the package. So anyways, you know what? I'm probably going to end up buying all that stuff. Who cares? But I also am probably going to end up buying this other announcement that came out for the 25th anniversary thing. There's new pop figures. The villains, Lord Zed, Rita Repulsa, Goldar, they're all getting their own pop figures. Plus, the Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers team is getting helmetless pop figures. Man, I want all of these. These all sound great. Man, hopefully I can get my hands on some before they skyrocket like the original pink and red Ranger pop figures. Anyways, let's move on to some comic reviews. First up, a couple weeks ago came out the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger 25th Anniversary Special. This consisted of 5 stories, a few revolving around Mighty Morphin, one revolving around Mystic Force, and one revolving around In Space and Lost Galaxy. So let's jump into it. The first story was called Pet Project. I just want to say overall, considering the things in this issue that I really enjoy, overall I liked it as an issue. Or it's not even really an issue, it's a special. Overall I liked it. But there's a few stories in here that I could care less about, to be honest. But there's 2 or 3 that I am 100% happy that I bought this, because it's $8, $7.99 at the comic book store, and I saw it for even more expensive online at certain places. So yeah, overall it's worth it because there's a few stories in there, and I will be going into spoilers for this and Go-Go 11, so you have been warned. The first one is called Pet Project, and it has Scorpina, which I like Scorpina. Even though the name is kind of silly, I would love to see Scorpina in a live-action film. Maybe don't call her that. You can get a great Asian actress to play that role. I think that would be awesome. But she has this little slug snake thing, and Rita turns it into a puppy and has it go down to Earth. The only thing, look, I didn't love this one. I thought it was kind of pointless, other than Scorpina showing up, and then this. We see Tommy in this, at this time in here, he's the White Ranger, okay? So, here's the thing. Are these stories in this special, they're just kind of like one-offs, they're not connected to the ongoing canon right now? Or are they like alternate universe stuff? Or are they like, oh, if Shattered Grid didn't happen, this stuff happens in this timeline? I don't know, but in our timeline, the regular timeline in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comics, Tommy is dead. Lord Draken killed Tommy. So he can't go on to become the White Ranger in that reality. But this doesn't have to be set in the same reality. Tommy could always come back, which I suspect is going to happen, which would kind of take away what happened in Shattered Grid. But I have a feeling there's going to be some time reversal or some time traveling and changing and stuff like that in that issue. But overall, I did not love the Pet Project one, but it did bring up that interesting bit about Tommy as the White Ranger. The next one had Lord Zed sending Goldar down, or Goldar sending himself down, and Lord Zed allowing him to go take on the Rangers. This one was interesting because you had Aisha, Adam, and Rocky. So this is after Jason, Zach, and Trini had left to go on to a peace conference, or actually to get fired because they weren't getting paid enough. But that's another story. But in the story, they left to go to a peace conference. So Aisha, Adam, and Rocky are in this, and Aisha and Adam are feeling kind of left out because they're new members. But even though Rocky is too, Tommy and Rocky have become best friends, and so they feel kind of left out. They feel like they have to prove themselves. And Billy has been working on this project. At the same time, Goldar's coming down to face them, and the project is, which was really cool. Overall, this one I didn't love it, but it's kind of cool because you have Aisha, Adam, and Rocky in there, which we haven't seen in the comics at all up until this point. I don't think we saw Adam in one of the annuals, I think, with that had to do with all the Black Rangers. But this, we haven't seen much of Aisha, Adam, and Rocky at all throughout the timeline. And I love Aisha. Aisha is one of my favorite characters. I like Rocky a lot. Adam's cool. So it was nice to see those characters back. But the real interesting thing is the thing that Billy was working on is the Rangers being able to grow to the size of the monsters when the monsters grow. So that's really cool. I don't think we've ever seen that. And have we in the show? Maybe we have. I can't remember. For some reason, I feel like we have, but even if we did, it was like one episode. But I don't think we did. But overall, okay little story in there. Now this one, I think this one, the titles for these weren't really clear, but I think this next one is called The Sweetest of Dreams, and it has to do with Power Rangers Mystic Force. Now look, I haven't seen Mystic Force. Like I've told you before, I've only watched up to Lost Galaxy in my childhood, or maybe SPD, but like once it gets up to Lost Galaxy and SPD, it's very blurry, so I don't really remember it as a child. But I'm gonna get to Mystic Force. But I loved this story because I had no idea what was coming. I don't know these characters or anything like that. But wow. So what are, like, to you guys who have seen the show, it's probably no big deal. But to me, I'm like, there's wizards and Power Rangers. Like basically, like that's crazy. That's really cool. So there's some type of magic or wizardry going on in the Power Rangers universe once you get to Mystic Force. See, I've said this so many times and I sound like a broken record, but the comics have made me want to go watch every season of Power Rangers. And isn't that like one of the great things, one of the points of doing these comics is to spread and build the fandom of Power Rangers overall? So stories like this Mystic Force one, which I don't even know what's going on, I don't know the characters, but it seemed really cool, and their suits looked really cool, and I love the idea of having some magical mythology into the Power Rangers universe, and Mystic Force sounds pretty cool. So wow, I am so interested in watching Power Rangers Mystic Force now, and I really like the elements they introduced in this episode, or this issue, this story in this issue. I don't know what she's doing, traveling to hell. I don't know what's going on, but I really, really enjoyed that one. The next one was okay. It was the one where I think, so Jason and then another Red Ranger from another team, they go try to take on the same thing, and there's some time travel involved, and Alpha kind of gets this other Ranger team to go stop this threat, and then the regular Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are on the same mission, and the two Rangers end up in the same thing, and they interact, and the other Ranger sends Jason back so he doesn't get in trouble or get hurt and mess up the timeline. So I liked it. I thought it was cool. It introduced a lot of things that we already are kind of familiar with, but like time travel. The interesting thing about this one is, so Alpha, and forgive me, like I said, I'm not well versed in anything past in space, really. So I can't even think of the other Ranger team off the top of my head. Don't get mad at me. It's just ignorance. It's not because I dislike them or anything like that. It's just I haven't got to that yet. And who knows, some of these newer iterations of the Power Rangers past in space could be some of my favorite. I can't wait to watch them, but I'm on my way. I already started Lost Galaxy, which had a pretty good start to it. But anyways, one thing I really liked about this, or I thought was interesting, is when the other Red Ranger shows up, and then he's in comms with Alpha, and Alpha says, or he says Jason, and he calls out Jason, and Alpha's like, Jason's there. He's like, he never told me about this. So then they're saying that Jason experienced this, knows that time travel exists, because at the end of this story he says the future's in good hands. So he knows that time travel exists, and he didn't tell anyone what he saw, or at least he didn't tell Alpha and Zordon what he saw. So that's really cool. Other than that, that little story was pretty good, but just nothing that stood out to me. But now, this is the one. The Trial of Astronomer. I was so happy to see this in there. I kind of got it spoiled for me because I saw it on the thumbnail of a YouTube channel that this was coming. I wish I didn't know that this was coming, because just reading the pages and then flipping to that page, I would have lost my mind. Because, listen, like I said, I just finished Power Rangers in Space. Astronomer is arguably the best villain up to that point in the Power Rangers lore. Lord Zed is still my favorite, but Astronomer is a strong number 2 and challenges him for the number 1 spot. She is a great villain in the context of Power Rangers, when you don't get a lot of depth to your characters often. Just the complexities that she deals with, and this story builds on that. The Trial of Astronomer, she was brainwashed, kidnapped, or whatever, and she is answering for those crimes, but it wasn't really her doing it, but she still feels really guilty. And then Andros, Leo, and Maya show up. Andros from Power Rangers in Space, her brother, Astronomer's brother, Corone, that's her real name, her brother, Leo and Maya, who I already knew worked with Corone, because Shattered Grid spoiled for me that Corone becomes the Pink Galaxy Ranger. This story spoiled for me. I'm not even going to say it because I don't want this to happen to anybody else. If you have not seen Power Rangers Lost Galaxy and you care about spoilers, do not read this issue, because it spoiled something for me that I did not want to know. So I know that sucks to have to hold off on that, but watch Power Rangers Lost Galaxy first. I really wish I would have. I probably wouldn't have waited anyway, because I love Astronomer so much, so I would want to read this story. But I loved this story in this issue. I love that how far Andros will go to save her. It just reflects that he did the same thing in the TV show. He never gave up on her. How far he'll go to save Astronomer, or to save Corone, and he does save her again, but she's mad at him because she feels she needs to answer for her crimes, and I thought that was just a very mature theme in there. Alright, now let's move on to Go Power Rangers number 11, something I've been really looking forward to because I'm really interested in the Ranger Slayer character. Excuse me one second. Ranger Slayer, the Kimberly from Lord Draken's world. Wow, okay. So I said last issue, or after last issue, and they announced that there's going to be a new Ranger team after Shattered Grid that's going to include this Kimberly from Lord Draken's World, Ranger Slayer, that they're going to have to dive deep into her character and show us why we're going to care about her once that comic book starts. And she's not evil. There's no way she's going to be on that team and be evil. So there has to be some type of reason. She has her own agenda, or she's brainwashed, which both happen to be the case. I wish it was just that she had her own agenda. She infiltrated Draken's team and became a part of it in order to get closer to him to kill him. She did do that, and so I was right about that. At the same time, though, she's brainwashed, which I don't like brainwashed because then it takes away the will of the character. So I was half on half on that. I love that she infiltrated Draken's team in order to get to him to kill him. I hate that she was brainwashed, and that's why she was attacking the Rangers, which is fine, because then if she was attacking the Rangers and didn't care if she killed them or hurt Zordon, it takes that away, which is fine, whatever. But this issue starts with Kim and Bulk from Draken's World just doing some rebel stuff, and then the Matt from their world died in front of Kimberly, so that's why that sets in motion. She's like, okay, I'm done with this. I lost Jason, I lost Billy in their world, and she's going to take on Draken herself. She wants to kill him. I thought that was great, and I love the Bulk from this world. He's a badass like that. I like this Bulk from this world. So then you jump back to modern time, and Ranger Slayer versus Pink Ranger, they're fighting, and then we know Matt's out there on the battlefield, and we know that Ranger Slayer had a Matt in her world that she seems to be romantically involved with. So now when she sees him in her Zord, she says Matt. So now Matt thinks he's even more. Remember this thing how Matt's like, oh, it's my destiny. I'm involved in this. I have something to do with this. Now he even thinks that even more so because the Zord, the Grave Zord, said his name. So that just sets that more into motion. And that Grave Zord messed up the T-Rex Zord. Do the Zords like heal or automatically repair or something like that? Because that T-Rex Zord got torn up. So anyways, they break Ranger Slayer out of her brainwash. Alpha does something to break her out. And then she's like, oh my goodness, what have I done? Blah, 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 blah. And then her and the Rangers kind of like not make up because they never knew each other, but like they get to know each other, I guess, and they become cool. And we get this one interesting page of Rita. She's like, oh wow, the Rangers were victorious. And then the monsters are like, do we want to attack now? And she's like, or Rita's like, it's a great time to attack. And then Finster's like, the monsters aren't ready. She's like, all right, just wait. So I don't know what that page was saying. It was saying, because there's gaps in between even in the show where Rita doesn't attack. So maybe that was like, it's just hinting towards that, like the times that Rita doesn't attack and why. So that kind of makes sense and is kind of cool. And then we cut back to the Rangers and a Ranger Slayer's guilt of what she's done and stuff like that, which is pretty good. And then there's this page where Matt is walking through the high school and telling Zach and Trini and Billy about how he thinks he's more involved, and they're like, no, don't go out and you're gonna get yourself killed. You're not a superhero. Stop. Promise us you won't do anything. And he's like, yeah, I promise, but we all know he's not gonna keep that promise. I like the Matt character, actually. I think you can do some really interesting things with him, because we never really had, other than Bulk and Skull, like a main ongoing character outside of the Ranger team, which I love that. I think you can do some really interesting things with him, but I have a feeling he's going to die eventually, and it's going to cause some troubles for Kimberly and Ranger Slayer. So then, speaking of them, we get them, they're kind of talking, they go to the juice bar to drink some milkshakes, and there's basically a party going on in the juice bar. It's basically like a bar for them, but they're teenagers, so they hang out at the juice bar, and then they're hanging out, drinking milkshakes. Ranger Slayer's doing some gymnastic stuff. She sees Bulk from that world, gives him a hug, and she tells Kimberly, like, you need to appreciate these small things, these peaceful times, because you're going to have a lot of problems throughout your life. I thought that was great. That was a great moment between them two. One thing, I guess I'll say, the turn from Ranger Slayer becoming unbrainwashed to then just, oh, I'm fine, let's go hang out at the juice bar. That was very quick, but I get it's a comic book. You don't have much time to do that. And they actually did a lot in this comic book, so I guess that's fine. But one of the best moments in all of Shattered Grid, I think, in my opinion, is when Ranger Slayer goes outside and Draken shows up. Man, Draken is scary. Do any of you get scared when Draken shows up? He's kind of terrifying, which is great because if you're considering all of Power Rangers, all mediums, comics, TV, movies, everything, I mean, Lord Draken is taking the throne of best villain ever. I mean, we haven't seen him in TV or anything like that, so we can't say he's better than Zed or Astronomer because he hasn't been there. But just overall, considering the comics and everything, he is by far the best and the greatest villain. And who knows what they're going to do with him in the future. That they can do some really great things with him. But he shows up, you're like, oh shoot, because Ranger Slayer is not bad anymore. So Draken figures that out. He tells her that he killed Tommy from this world, but later on in the timeline, she's like, I don't know why you did that. That might cause repercussions. And then they're kind of hinting that Ranger Slayer and Draken had some type of relationship. I don't know if it's a strong friendship or if it's like a romantic relationship or if he's just like she was his right-hand person, like his assassin. Either way, they're really close. And he said he doesn't kill her. He says, why would I leave you alive if you were any problem for me in the future? But I think that's going to come around to bite him in the butt. And then he leaves and he says, I'm going to miss you. So that was very interesting. That's what made me believe that they have some type of strong relationship. And then we see that Ranger Slayer, we know she wants to kill Draken from the beginning of this issue, and she goes back to the command center and she's up to something. Billy catches her. He's like, oh, I can help you, blah blah blah, and she tases him, but she's not really bad. She just needs to kill Draken and she doesn't want anyone to get in her way, and she has some type of plan, and she says, sorry Billy, I didn't want to hurt you, but after I do what I did, you won't even know what I did. And then they show a monster and a Zord standing in the middle of the city. So I don't know what that means, but the thing that she said is more interesting because that means she's going to do something. She's going to go back in time and kill Lord Draken or something like that. Something that's going to reset the timeline, which I don't know if I want, because then you're taking away all the stakes of everything that happened. But overall, I loved this issue. Like I said, it rushed a few things like Ranger Slayer coming back, but how much time do you have in a one-issue comic? I love this issue. I really like the 25th anniversary, especially the Trial of Astronomer thing. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of both of these. What was your favorite story from the 25th anniversary? What was your favorite one or two? Did you like the Trial of Astronomer one as much as me? Tell me more about Mystic Force if you know more. I love that. It made me so interested. What did you think of Go-Go Power Rangers number 11? Are you going to be at Power Morphicon? Let me know in the comment section. Again, I am your host, Jacob Bartley. This is Off the Grid, a Power Rangers podcast. Thank you all for listening to this episode. I really appreciate it. Until next time, may the power protect you.